Hello, welcome back to Tony Dock Station and the second video in track laying. So welcome back to Tony Dock Station. In this video we're going to be doing the rest of the track laying. In the last video I spoke to you about blocks and how I've planned them out and showed you the completed first block, which is what you're seeing there. This video I'm going to show you exactly how I'm laying on my track, including a couple of point works. So the bit I'm going to demonstrate today is the block 3, going around the curve and into the point. And what I'm going to do first of all is lay the point, and I'm going to show you my point alignment tool being used as well. The inclines and declines down into the docks, the DCC power base is all in place now. That's all dried, ready to go. So the first thing we're going to do is prepare the points. Okay, so I've got here one of the Pico SLE195 medium radius right hand point, which is the code 75. That's it there. If I've done videos before on how to prepare points, these are no different to the last videos. This particular joint is here for using for DCC. What I'm doing is popping those out so that I'm going to have the frog independently powered and not relied upon by the switch blades. And also to improve reliability, we solder these two joints together here and these two joints together here. Now the little bit of wire in there that you pop out is very, very tiny, but is just the right size to go in there. So I'm going to be using those just to try and make it the smallest and less visible possible, so it's very fiddly. So that's going to go on there, and that's what we're going to do, solder those on, and then that point will be prepared, ready to go on. Okay, so with that bit of soldering done, I have not yet soldered the dropper wires on because I need to do some markings. So I've got the point pretty much where I want it to be. I've lined it up, so what I'm going to do is make sure it's exactly where I want it, the correct angles. And I'm going to just mark the corners so that I know I can put it back in exactly the right place. Now what I can do is mark where I want the dropper wires to be soldered, and just to make this easier, let's have a look at the point here. Where's going to be the best place to do him? Let's go with about here. So now with those markings I can line this up exactly back where it was. I'm going to mark the droppers to go here. So I know now my dropper's hole needs to be done there. Now, what I also need to do is fetch my alignment tool. Now, what this will do, it will slide on like this, and I'll do that off camera and then I will show you what happens. Okay, so that's now slid on, and what this has done is, hopefully you can see, has spliced the switch rails to dead center. I now can drill through there, know that I've got that dead center, and then these two holes will be for where the point motor screws into the baseboard. So I know I'll drill those, and then everything will be perfectly aligned for those markings on there. So I simply put it back on into my original markings and drill the pilot holes. So now with that done, if I remove this and bring you in, you can see I have 3 holes drilled. And this one here is dead centre for the pilot hole. Obviously this was from a previous point, so this hole might be slightly out of line. But I now know if I drill those, the point will then go exactly where it's meant to be. Okay, so I forgot to mention as well to mark out and drill the hole for the frog wire. But as you can see, point motor done, dropper wires for the point done, and hole for the frog wire done. So a few little holes. All I've got to do now is just solder the dropper wires onto the point, and then this can be ready to be glued in place. Okay, so we've got the point all ready to go, frog wire down, dropper wires for power done. So these will slot through. So all we've got to do is copy dex this, wait for that to go tacky, copy dex the back of this, lay it down, and that'll stick. So now we're waiting for that to dry, and it is absolutely roasting up here, so hopefully that won't take too long. The wait is just to make sure it stays aligned, and while that goes dries off. Once that is dried, I can then start the track from this side of the point, work my way around, and then I'll fill the little gap that way, or I might go the other way. But what you get to watch me do now is space a whole set of sleepers. Aren't you lucky? So that was obviously time lapse. That took quite a while. You can see I've used the spare piece of ball head rail for the sleeper spacing just as a guide. This isn't perfect, the concrete one, but it's they're in the rough space, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and I'm going to lay it out over the curve, and then you'll see what I've done here is I've dotted next to each sleeper. So I lay this out where I want it to be, and then I just go along with the marker and dot both sides, so that when I come to glue it, I can make sure that all the sleepers are in the correct orientation, especially for the curve, and also to make sure that they have got the correct spacing between them before the glue dries. So I lay them all down, glue it, and while the glue's still wet, make all the adjustments, weight it down, so that then when it dries, they will dry in the correct spacing. And obviously those marks won't be visible because the ballast will be over the top of them anyway. So I use this as a guide just to get them in the right space, and then take this, lay it across the curve, which I will do in a minute, mark out all the sleepers where they need to be, then I can lay this down, and then I can adjust all the sleepers, solder the dropper wires on, and then glue it down. Unfortunately, I had the camera set up, but I forgot to press the record button on the time lapse, so you can see the afterwards. It's probably a bit of a good thing actually, because it was a bit of a nightmare to bend the track. With all the sleepers webbing cut, it does make bending that track quite challenging, because I suppose all the sleepers are free to roam angles, which means it's not as easy to bend. So it was a case of quite a bit of trial and error getting these curves down, but you can see that they are there and done. The ball head rail was laid down, the dots drawn around, it's glued in and attached to the point over here by the isolated fish plates, and just this one last little section here to be put in. With the corners, because it was a bit tricky to get the bend in, I haven't yet soldered on the dropper wires, so they're going to have to go on this little piece here, and I'm going to have to rely on the fish blades to do some conductivity. If not, I will then have to just solder onto the side. However, with this station, I mentioned it was done in 3 sections for 1 block. These curves are just going to be 1 section for 1 block, because they're quite short and I don't need super precise stopping distances, and also it'll help cut down on the amount of detection channels effectively I need. But where I need precise stopping, I'll be using multiple sections for each block, but for this one it is just going to be 1 section for the block, so I don't have to worry about chopping up the track, which is also a good thing because I don't like brakes on track on curves. Just found from my previous layout that they can be a little bit challenging and can cause some derailments. So I've got the little piece here cut to go in here. I'm just going to wait for all this to dry first. I'll solder some droppers onto that, and then put them through there, and then if there are any conductivity issues in the future, I will just solder some droppers onto the side of those rails for there. But hopefully for this short section this should be enough. Okay, so that last bit is just drying underneath box screws and the screwdriver drill. So that is block 1 and block 2 and the point done. You can sort of see a little bit more of the track now that that bit's sort of finished drying. Sleeper spacing isn't as great. It was a lot trickier than the first block with the gentler curve. I mean, that's the 3rd radius, that's the worst it's going to be. The 4th radius might be a little bit easier, but it is still pretty tricky, and that bit underneath there. Put all the isolating and conducting fish plates on where required. So I'm going to end that video there, having watched me laid pretty much block 2. I think it's going to be much of the same, and it's going to take me a little while. It's taken me quite a bit just to do this bit. Straight should be nice and easy, but as you saw earlier, it takes time to actually cut all the webbing on the track and space out the sleepers and lay them down. So yeah, I'll get it done as quick as I can, obviously, guys, but you know, it might be a little while before the next video. So I will try and post some regular updates as and when I can, but until the track's all finished, and that's going to be my next major video, I think. I'm just going to crack on and get it done. So make sure you're subscribed for when that comes out. Click the subscribe button and make sure you click the bell next to it, which will notify you when that video comes out, so you don't miss it. And I'd appreciate it if you could like and share with all the love. So thanks very much for watching, guys. I will see you very soon. Cheers now. Bye bye.